Jeff, why don't we start with you just to provide a bit of background to this question, and then maybe we'll go to you, Steve.
Yeah. So these are the questions that come out of the whole. What are the questions that are being asked on social media by 18 to 35-year-olds, and this is New Zealand specific. So I think this is number 3 or something like that, where this is a big question that for a lot of people, and I assume for young Māori, but probably I would assume for even young Pākehā, is how do we reconcile these? Is there an inherent conflict between Christianity and Māori spirituality and spiritual beliefs?
So a lot of people want to know the answer, and a lot of people want to get stuck in. And I think, Steve, you join us with your own experience of being a Māori who is a believer, a Christian. So let's talk about the background for you, Steve. What was it like for you growing up as a Christian and Māori?
Thank you, everyone. Yes, I grew up in a Christian home. My father was a minister, was a lay minister in the Māori Anglican Church. My parents were both fluent speakers, but they never taught my sister and I te reo. They preferred us to focus on English, so we became very good English speakers. Our times with Māoridom was when we went back to the maraes. That was always special, but I couldn't speak or understand what they were saying, but I knew I'm Māori. I had no problems with that. Being brought up in the Anglican Church, you can it was a form of worship that I was happy with. But when I got older, I became a Christian really at the age of 27 after many upheavals. And I came back to the Lord. Well, the Lord drew me back to himself, actually. And from then, I really endeavored to walk a Christian life. Went to charismatic church, Pentecostal church, then went to a Presbyterian church, which kind of knocked me around a little bit. And for the first time, I actually heard the preaching of systematic preaching through the Bible, which actually was wonderful. That was a long time down in my Christian journey. But so here I am. At 69 years of age last year, I decided it was time for me to pursue te reo. And I knew I was leaving it a bit late. I was never a good student even when I was young. So here I am at 69 trying to be a good student and realizing I'm still the same fella. But I felt the challenge needed to be done. I don't know why I did it. And after the first day, I was wishing I didn't take my te reo journey. I found it very difficult.
What was it about it that was so challenging, Steve?
Sorry?
What was it about it that you found so challenging?
Well, when I would go and try and speak te reo in our class, and my throat would choke. I couldn't get any words out. It wasn't until I was talking to a Chinese guy who was in the college as well, and he said, "Oh, bro, you've got language trauma."
Interesting.
And I had never heard of that before. He said, you're traumatized because of what's going on in your past, and you're trying to speak to them, and your past won't let you.
And what do you think was something that helped you kind of get through that?
Well, yeah, that really shocked me, actually. But one thing he said to me was he didn't have language trauma with Māori because he never grew up Māori. He's Chinese. And so he says, "Oh man, I don't care about making a mistake," he said, "but you do."
Well, look, something that I know provides a challenge for those who have learnt today, and I've heard this from other friends of mine as well, particularly who have a Māori background themselves, is that it's not so much just the language learning, but its intersection with Te Ao Māori and I guess Māori myth and tradition and those sorts of things. Did you experience that conflict?
Well, that's perfect, Andrew, what you brought up, because that was the conflict. I was suspicious of Māori spirituality because I didn't understand it. And for the first semester, I wanted to run away from that course as fast as I could because I couldn't reconcile. And I cried out to the Lord and I said, "Lord, please help me. I don't know what to do. And I don't want to give up." So anyway, it's amazing. So, I came to some passages in Scripture that really helped me to settle my heart. I was like a little sparrow flying around in this Māori world, and I didn't have anywhere to land, and my wings were getting tired, and I couldn't fly anymore. I had to find a place of rest, and the Lord gave me, through His Word, He gave me firstly Acts 17:26 and 30, where Paul is in Athens, and he said, to men of Athens, the verses, but basically he says
Yes.
God has allowed these times of ignorance ever. He put all men everywhere around the world for His purpose, and he says God has overlooked the time of ignorance, but now He has set a standard of righteousness in Christ. So basically, what that made me see was being Māori was part of God's plan. Now, Māori, of course, we lived in our legends, and we lived in our whakapapa, all of those things. That was our way of explaining where we come from. And I started to see that all those things are natural to every culture. But the time has come when those cultures must now come to the feet of Jesus Christ. So what it did for me, Andrew, was it settled my whole heart, as if to say, this is all in God's plan.
There's something universal about this too, isn't there? Because we've asked the question particularly about Māori spirituality, but for those who bring any other spiritual background into New Zealand, really it's an extension of the same question. How does my past
Yes.
culture and spirituality intersect with this new faith? Do I have to give up what it means to be Indian, to be Chinese, to be Aboriginal, to be from Kazakhstan? So there's a universality here.
It's a beautiful thing, actually, because we remember in Genesis 11, God scattered the nations because they had one language, you see. And so they came down and they confused the languages because God wanted His world to be populated.
Yeah.
So He sends them all out through the world, and everybody's got this language now. But here we have Paul, the preacher of Christ, who tells us the reason why.
Now,
And now everything, sorry.
sorry, I know you've got another verse that you want to share, and I'll ask you about that very soon. But I wanted to talk about the idea that, we all kind of come together and we all kind of struggle to figure out who we are. And it comes down to identity, right? And I think the moment that we accept Christ, we accept a new identity. But that doesn't mean it changes who we are, who God's created us to be, right? And
Amen.
I think what you're telling me is so beautiful, and that you had that moment where you realised that God had made you Māori for a reason.
Yes.
And when you kind of accepted that this is actually part of who you are, and even though sometimes the journey to kind of understanding who God's created you to be is quite challenging, that there's a reason for it.
Yes, spot on, spot on. So because I was suspicious of Māori spirituality, after I read those verses, I managed to settle down and accept. So we would do certain teachings on legends and all of. Well, I accepted those teachings because that was how Māori communicated the spiritual world. That's how they communicated, how they got to where they are, with these legends and these traditions, and so my heart settled. And I could see that that was a necessary part of Māori culture developing, of course, until the gospel comes to New Zealand.
Well, look, let's try and then answer this question as best we can, bringing it back to where we started. Can Christianity coexist with Māori spirituality? How do you answer that now, Stephen?
Oh, look, I wholeheartedly understand that it is God's purpose. Now, I'll share something else with you. One of the things as I went through this course was, how is Ratana religion all right? Is the Ringatu religion all right? Is Paimari there all right? And so, I had these questions. What am I to think of these religions? Well, we had a symposium at Ihorangi, and we had these great speakers, Rob Ruha and his wife. And Rob Ruha, he's got a full tamoko, and he wears a big, heitigi, And I'm looking at these fellas, but he loves the Lord.
Yeah.
Now, you know what that did for me? That kind of settled, my Lord, you are amazing. What the Lord allows us to do, He allows us to embrace those things that don't interfere with our conscience.
Say that again. I think that's a brilliant principle.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he allows our belief, like them, Rob Ruhana's wife, Māori, they embrace the Māoridom fully, and they're not ashamed to have tamoko or wear the heitiki, and but their expression of their love for Christ is amazing.
Yeah.
I tell you, it opened my eyes.
Yeah.
There is a place for Māori spirituality in the life of Māori. Now, I thought to myself, well, what would I do if I wanted to get a tāmoko and wear a heitiki? Well, you see, I said to my wife, I want to buy one of those heitikis. She wouldn't let me. My wife is not Māori; she's from Tonga.
Ah,
Yeah.
And so, I would love these things, but it's not just about me anymore. It's about my wife.
And so much of your
myself.
identity is caught up in your family as well, right? Who you are is who you are placed with and where you belong on the part of earth that you're staying on right in this moment. And Steve, I wanted to ask you, you did mention another scripture that helped you. What was that other scripture that really helped you in this season?
Yes, well, it was Genesis 11, Acts 17, but the next one that really helped me was Revelation 7, verse 9. Every nation, tribe, tongue, people around the throne. And well, you can imagine, Māori will be looking like Māori. They will be speaking Māori, because all of those things are for the glory of our Creator God, who made the world for His glory, and for our purpose, of course. But He made it for His glory. So all of these things settled my heart, and so in our course at Ihorangi, we had to write. We were given essays to write, and you would take a legend, and they would say, now you can do the prequel or the sequel to that legend. So you make up whatever start you want or whatever finish you want. So I would write these essays, and one of them was on Tihi o Te Rangi, who was a tohunga in Whakatane, and he was a very powerful tohunga. So I took my story and I wrote, the end of the story was that he became a believer of Christ, not through knowing Christ, but through knowing his conscience of preferring to do good for his people rather than being feared and kind of ostracized from his people because he was Tohunga. So,
Well, Stephen,
I had an opportunity to bring the slant of my beliefs in a God who reconciles and draws to himself.
Kia ora, and thank you so much for joining us today. What an incredible story that was. And there's more like it too if you click here.
in fact, our channel has tons of stories that can inspire you and encourage you, let you know what life is like in Aotearoa and around the world. So maybe you want to subscribe by clicking here.